Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we must this Yevamot daf Chav Zayin. We are going to begin on the bottom of Chav Vav and Beis, 3 lines from the bottom of Shmuel Amar. So we're learning in yesterday's daf a discussion. Let's say you have 5 brothers: Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, and Yisachar. Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda died. Now each one of those brothers actually was married to a sister. So now you have Reuven and Yisachar. Now the question is, how are they supposed to deal with this where all 3 of them died? So it depends. If it was bevasachas, if let's say those 3 brothers died at the same time, so therefore, because Reuven and Yisachar can never do yibum, it's considered to be a weak chalitza. So therefore, each of the brothers need to do chalitza to all the sisters. However, we said, according to the sheet of Rav, that what happens if it's bezur chazu? So let's say, first of all, Rachel becomes a shemeres yavam. So one brother can do chalitza, and that's it. That's a strong chalitza, because he could have done yibum. And then another sister is zakuk. So now Yisachar, the other brother, could do chalitza completely, and that's it. The question is by the third sister. Now the third sister, who's now her husband died, so we require Reuven and Yisachar to do chalitza to her. Both brothers have to do chalitza. It's because it's considered to be a weak chalitza because it's achis zukukasai, because it was already a zika. Now, even though Rab holds in zika, this is according to the pshat. If you would hold yesh zika, then he would say that Reuven and Yisachar would both be required to do chalitza because it's considered to be a weak chalitza. Now, Shmuel Omer. Shmuel disagrees and says, no. Even when it comes to this third sister, the chalitza of one brother does release her from the other brother. Okay. All right. So now for the Gemara, is that true? Michdi, let's see. We're going to see that he actually holds a proper chalitza needs to be done. This is not a proper chalitza, because it's, of course, the same ceremony of chalitza, but it's being done in a situation where chalitza was already done by this other brother to her, this woman's sister. So it's not shaykh for him to now do yibum. So the whole notion that chalitza is strong is when you could have done yibum, instead you do chalitza. Here you can't do yibum. So therefore it's a weak chalitza. That's the reason why Rav says both brothers have to do chalitza to her. Shmuel says not, but I'll show you that maybe not be the case. How do we see this? Never Shmuel, because he says as follows, as we continue to Chav Zayin Amud Aleph. Chalitz l'achiyos. Let's say you did chalitza to the sisters, lo niftru tsaros. That will not pater the co-wives. So let's look in Rashi and we'll explain this. Shtei achayos. So you have 2 sisters, shnaful afanav mishnei achad. They fall to two brothers. So basically what happens, you had Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. So Shimon and Levi were married to Rachel and Leah. And Rachel and Leah were sisters. Now Shimon and Levi died. So Reuven now is potentially able to do chalitza or ibum, but the problem is that Rachel and Leah are sisters. So Rashi says, V'chol achas sarasa, ima. Not only did Rachel... is there Rachel and Leah, but there's also Bilhah and Zilpah. In other words, Shimon was married to Rachel and Bilhah, and Levi was married to Leah and Zilpah. And of course, as we said, Rachel and Leah were sisters. So the din is like this. So what happens if you did chalitza to one of the sisters? Reuben decided to do chalitza for one of the sisters. So just because you did chalitza to one of the sisters, that will not pater the tsara, will not pater Bilhah. Let's say if you did chalitza for Rachel, that's not going to pater Bilhah. Hoyel v'iboy liavume lo matzi el yachotz l'tsaros v'yiftu achayos. He says, because it's a weak chalitza, because it's not shaykh for you to have done yibum to Rachel, it's not shaykh for you to have done yibum to Leah. So because of that, better that you should have done chalitza to Bilhah, and that would have worked, because Bilhah you technically could have done yibum to, because she's not there's no sisters in the equation. Bilhah is not a sister to Rachel, and Bilhah is not a sister to Leah. So it's a weakened chalitza since he can't do yibum in this situation by Rachel and Leah. So again, here Leah and Rachel are sisters. Here Reuven can't do yibum to anyone since it's achos ukukaso, and the others are at sorrow, which is a din d'Rabbanan. So Reuven must do the chalitza with its saros, let's say with Bilhah and Zilpah, which is the stronger chalitza. Then the sisters will be released. So that's what he's mentioning over here. So that's why chalitza achayos, if you did chalitza to the sisters, which you shouldn't have done, then lo niftar tsaros. That's not going to end up doing anything for Bilhah or Zilpah. You still have to do chalitza to them. Now heicha dekayma chalitza Shimon chalitza kashera. There's a situation where the chalitza is standing by Shimon, then chalitza kashera, says Rashi. Lichleitz l'shniya shehu loy chalitza rishayna. However, chalitza Reuven chalitza psula. So he's just using different names over here. But L'chayra, says Rashi Bidmia, Reuven shechalitza rishona. If Reuven did chalitza, v'havi hach achos chalutzaso. So now the sister is achos chalutzaso, the sister of the one you did chalitza to, v'lo chalitza malyahi. So it's not a real chalitza. Kiddush Shimon de zika gridasa he, because it's considered to be a weak zika, because you can't do yibum with her anyway. So l'chayra, it seems a little bit problematic. So my echad chalitza kulon, it means you have to do chalitza to all of them. So nam chalitza l'kulon nam dikamer emsoyis v'ha kulon kaimer. So what you want to tell me when it says l'kulon, it just means only the last sister. But kulon kaimer, it says to all of them. So kivan deruba gabe, since the two women get chalitza from the same guy, karile kulon, it's like all of them. When does he say that it's you actually require an actual chalitza? You need a strong chalitza to pata the tsar. And over here, if you would do chalitza to the sister, to Rachel, that's not going to pata the tsar because that's not a strong chalitza. So therefore, a chalitza psula of one Yevama does not release the other Yevama. However, avol mifter nafsha patra says, what does that mean? However, but the chalitza psula of one Yevama does release this Yevama from the other brothers. Okay. Gufa Omer Shmuel chalatz lachayos. If you did chalitza to the sisters, will nifter tsaros. So it doesn't pata the tsaros. However, with tsaros, if you did, let's say, chalitza to Bilhah or Zilpah, then nifter achayos. That will pata them. Fine. Now, chalatz l'balas haget. Now, here's a different case. Let's say you did chalitza to the balas haget. Well, nifter tsara. With tsara, nifter a balas haget. So let's go slow. So what happened over here? So you have, Rashi says, Beis Yevamos, two women, mi'ach echad, from one brother. V'nasan yavam get l'achas mehen. So instead of doing chalitza, he gave one of them a get. So shuv in chalitza so hogenes kolkach. If he would decide to do chalitza after he gave her a get, that chalitza is not so strong. The kalisha zikasai. The get weakened her connection to him by giving her a get. Now, they weren't married, but he gave her a get anyway. So we require a chalitza, but that chalitza is not strong anymore because he had already divorced her. Shuv in chalitza so hogenes kolkach the kalisha zikasa. The im chalatla nifter tzara. And therefore, since he gave her a get, it's a weak chalitza, and therefore that chalitza will not pater the co-wife, which means you still have to do chalitza for the co-wife. However, the other way around, let's say you gave one of them a get, so what's Sarah, but you did chalitza to the other one, nifter a balas a get. That's it. Once you did chalitza for the Sarah, then all of a sudden, even though you gave a get to the other woman, you don't have to do anything else to her. Chalatz l'balas maimer, chalatz l'balas maimer. Let's say instead of doing yibum, he does maimer. Kedusha to Rabbanan to one of them. He gave her kesef. Right? It says Rashi also maimer ba'achas mishnei achiv hames. He did maimer to one of these, the two sisters, one of them, And then v'achacha cholatzla. Says Rashi, afterwards he does chalitza with her. So it's kind of like confusing. He did maimer with her, which kind of like brings her in more, and then he does chalitza with her, which separates her. So nifter tzara, that does not pater the tzara. The fact that you did chalitza there either, shechalitza zu enu poteres legamri, shedan tzricha get. That chalitza is also weak because you still need a get, because you did maimer, as it says on Daf Nun, also maimer b'cholatz. If once you did maimer and then you did chalitza, still sricha himenu get. You still need to give a get. So again, we see once again that there's this weakness of the chalitza is weak, that it doesn't accomplish what it needs to accomplish entirely to free her up. That's not enough. So therefore, again, if you did maimer to one of the sisters, and then all of a sudden you give her, and then you do. Let's go back in the Gemara. Let's say you did chalitza to the balas maimer. You did maimer, then you did chalitza to her. Well, nifter tzara. That chalitza is not strong. However, nifter balas maimer. However, if you gave chalitza to the tzara, that will pater the balas maimer, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to. It paters her from chalitza, but you still have to give a get, right? But you still need to give a get, just not chalitza anymore. Okay, so that's again the distinctions he makes. So why do we say that if you do chalitza to the sister, that it's not going to pater the other ones, the co-wives, the havilo achos isha bezika, because it's achos kukaso. So chalitza tzaras namilu nifter achayos, the havilu tzaras achos isha's bezika. So they're also the co-wives. So how does that work? Because once you did once you did chalitza, so that should also be an element of release, and therefore it's not strong. Let's go Ksavar Shmuel ein zika. It's because Shmuel holds ein zika. So in Rashi, what tzaras nami hatzaras achos zakukehi. So these sisters are zokuk to this guy. Vesira liavume. He can't do yibum. The tsar b'makom erva kaima. So he's saying it's because he holds ein zika. It's not really such a strong zika. So therefore, that's the reason why we allow it the other way around. That if you did chalitza to the tzara, that it will free the sisters. But he holds yesh zika. Which is the exact opposite of Rav, right? So he really holds yesh zika, but he's explaining according to the sheet of ein zika. If you hold ein zika, then again, as he said, even the third sister, you wouldn't have to do. All of them would not have to do chalitza. Just one is enough. So how come the other way around not? How come if you did the chalitza to the sisters, does it not pot to the tzaros anyway? It's not a strong zika. So bishlam tzar de rachel tipater. So I can understand the tzar of Rachel, the one that you actually did chalitza with. It's not going to pater. The kivan de chalatzla Leah, since you did chalitza to Leah, v'hader chalitza to Rachel. So again, the other way around. First you did chalitza to Leah, and then you do chalitza to Rachel. So havila chalitza to Rachel chalitza psula. So this chalitza that you did, the second chalitza you did, is a chalitza psula. So her co-wife won't help to pater. So again, I can understand why if you did chalitza to one, and then the second sister, so that second sister, that chalitza really didn't mean anything because you couldn't do yibum to that second sister anyway. So therefore that chalitza's weak, and therefore that's why the tzara of the second sister won't be pater. You have to do chalitza for that second tzara. El tzara delea tipater. Why don't we say that the first tzara, it should be released? So my lo nifter tzaros nami de karmer tzara de Rachel. It's referring to the second sister. You're right. The first sister's tzara would be pater. I bahat tzaras karmer, but tzaras the alma. But it doesn't mean all the tzaras. It just means the second one. Yihachi chalot tzaras nifter achayos. It should say that if you did chalitza to the tzaras, the nifter achayos. It should also say vatzaras Rachel. It should say also the tzara of Rachel, mi miftera. Is that true? Will it really pater? Vatanan aser adam b'tzaras kroivas chulutzasai. So Shmuel Nami hiskil v'lo hiskil kaimer. Hiskil b'achayos. You begin with the sisters. Lo yigmor b'tzaros. Don't end with the tzaros. Did not aser adam b'tzaras kroivas chulutzasai. A person is aser to the tzara of kroivas chulutzaso. Hiskil b'tzaros. Yigmor af b'achayos. However, if you begin by doing chalitza to the tzara, then you can complete also with the sisters. Did not. Mutter adam mikroiva saras chutza. So a person is allowed to the kroivim of the tzara of the one you did chalitza to. Rav Ashi Amrul Olam Kidikamet. Really, it's like what we established before. It says Rashi Olam Kidiomer Shmuel Bereisha Chalatz Lachayos. That not that it's talking about, it patters, it only patters, it will actually patter the second the first sarah. No, it says that the tsaras are not pattered at all. Mishum diyesh zika, because he actually holds yesh zika, and therefore b'chalitas hachoyos geruya v'yafil tsaras leia. Even the first one, even the first sister, the tsara is not going to be patter. Even the first tsara lo miftera. Chalutz l'saras nifter achayos. The chalitzasa mishubachais mishal. Right. So we need, again, it has to be strong. But he holds yezika. Right. This is Rashi. Mishum deloy lima zika l'shavis l'tzara ki erva l'gosu chamim elab achos sakuka. So let's look in the Gemara. So according to Rabashi, Oilam Kedikaamrit. Mishalom do Alima Zika, the Zika is not so strong with Shavi Litzar Erva, to make the Tzara like an Erva. Fine. And there he says, we're not geyser when it comes to the Chachamim, except for Achos Zakuka, only the sisters, but not the Tzara. Tanik was to the Rabashi, so we have the support to the Shita of Rabashi that we just said. So what we just said, we're going to support. Tani was Ravashi. If he did chalitza to one of the two sisters, it doesn't pot the co-wives at all. If you did the chalitza to the tsaros, it will pot to the sisters. To my time, it must be because there is this strong connection, but the zika is not so strong with shavi l'tzar ke'erva. They were going to make the tsar like an erva, so therefore it's a raya. So that's a proof. So Rav Abba Bar Mamel, Hamani Rab Beishamai, he did not. Beishamai matirin hatzaras la'achin. It's maybe like the Shita Beishamai that just matters the tsaras altogether. He doesn't have this whole din of our first Mishnah that just because you can't do yibum with, let's say, you're an erva, it doesn't answer the tsara. Yehachi Yevumi Namim Tisiyavim. So then you should even be able to do yibum, according to Beis Shammai. So answer Kreb Yochanan ben Nuri. The Yomer Bon Sakin Lehem Matzara Shilchotzos Lomas Yevamos. We're Masakin that we should only do chalitza and that's it. The Yomer Mar will he speak Gligmor Sadavar ad Shinitrafa Hasha. Rav Nachman Miyitzchach Acharav Chazer B'Tiknu. So even though you're right, Mikra Din Chalit Yibum could be done, but again the problem, as we saw before, is we don't want that to be done because it could be moitzilaz, etc. Okay. Iboilahu. Now the Gemara asked the following question. We talked about a situation as we continue Chav Zayin Mebez, that when a man has the opportunity to do Yibam or Chalitza, so and there's two sisters, and he decides to do to give one of them a get, or let's say one of the tzara. So he gives one of them a get, or he does mimer. So he said that chalitza is done is weak, and because it's weak, it's not going to pater the tzara. So balas get ubalas mimer is mehem kodemas. Imagine you have two women and married to this man. So this brother gives a get to one and gives mimer to the other. The question now is, since both of them are weak, So the question is, which one do we do chalitza to first? So that's the question. Eza, says Rashi, Eza behen haguna lichleitz. Which one should we do chalitza for lifter tsarasa? So one, you gave a get to one, and you did mimer to the other. So which one comes first? So Baal said get a difa. Maybe you should do chalitza, which is a release to the one who you gave a get to, mishum de aschel ba b'chalitza, because you already began the process of releasing by doing b'chalitza or big get, right? Since you already, it says on the side begerishin, right? Because you already gave a get, so therefore chalitza makes sense that you should do with her. Odilma balas mimer difa mishum de karev labia, because when you do mimer, right after kedushin is nesuin, which is bia, so therefore, which is yibum. So which one is there more of a connection to? So the Gemara answers as follows: Ravashi tashma umayder amlil sheish get achar maimer. Rav Shimon agrees that there is a case of giving a get after maimer, maimer achar get. And there's a situation of doing mimer after a get. What is this referring to? So let's look at Rashi. Diarma come on. So he says later on, ein get achar get. There's no din of a get after a get. Moidahu sheish get achar mimer. What does that mean? Kigon bez Yevamos. So you have two Yevamos, mi'ach echad, from one brother. So you have these two women. The asa mimer bezu. So the guy did mimer with one of these women. The achad nosin get lazu. And then he gave a get to the other one. So mahani get, the fact that he gave a get to the second one, it helps lifsel harishayna, that it will actually passel the first one. Mishum lo yivneh lihi aser b'kroiva shniya kivrishayna v'lo yamrinan maimer kikanusa. We don't say, oh well, since he did maimer, it was like he was married to her. No, rather the get helps the fact that you gave a get to the second one, that it's strong enough that it causes that he will not be able to marry the first one now. And the other way around, maimer achar get. What is that? Im nasan get l'rishayna. First, let's say you gave a get. The achach asa maimer, they did maimer to the tzara. Lo amrinan get kama bimkaim chalitza koy. We don't say that the get is instead of chalitza, basulo kari kani maimer, and therefore the second woman he can't do maimer on. No, Yevamot b'tzara elavade mahani yisricha get lamamarai. He actually, the mimer will mean something enough that he has to give her a get. V'aser gam b'karav. So the fact that you gave a get, the fact rather that you did mimer, then you gave a get. So the mimer, the one who you did mimer with, you need to be able to still need to give a get for. Okay. Now get adif. So if get is stronger, back in the Gemara, lo lahani mimer abasrei. Be mimer adif lo mahani get abatrei. Elav shmamina ki hadadin inhu shmamina. So we see that they actually offset, and therefore they're actually equal. So therefore, shmamina, that is the proof that we don't see that one is stronger than the other regarding do chalitza for one over the other. Okay. Let's look at question over here. Question 11. Iboilhu. Bal haget ubal maimer ezmehem kodem so my nifshat umehechen nifshat. So we know the answer is that they're equal. Okay? The question is, how do we see that? So let's see how he writes it. Pashu dechi hadadin inhu. Since Rabbi Will said sheish get achar maimer v'yesh maimer achar get. V'yichan mehem adif. If one of them is stronger than the other, will yoil idach abatrei. The other one won't help. The fact that we see that one after the other that has power, it shows that each of them are in certain respects equal. Okay. Weiter. Omer Rav Huna Omer Rav. So in the name of Rav again, Beis Achayos Yevamos. You have these two sisters who were Yevamos. Shenaf lifnei Yavam Echad. So they were married to two different men, obviously, and then those men died, and now there's one man that she has. There's two sisters. Now, obviously, he cannot do yibum to either of them. So cholatz l'rishayna hutra. If he did chalitza to one of them, then she can marry others, right? Then the second one is able to go, as Rashi says, l'shuk, right? So if he did, again, chalitza to one, then that's fine. Then the other one is free. Chalitza l'shniya, hutra. If he did chalitza to the second sister, also they're free. Now, obviously, when it says rishon l'shniya, it doesn't mean their age. It means that one of them became a Yevamot before the other. So in that situation, it doesn't matter. Whoever was zakuk first does still, as long as you did chalitza to one, it'll free her off for the other. The Meisri Shaina, let's say one of the first woman died before chalitza, so there was really nothing was done. So mutter b'shniya. In that case, the second one is mutter b'shniya, because the answer chalomer meisa shniya shemutter b'rishayna. Mishum dehavi Yevama shehutra. This was a Yevama who was mutter. V'nesra, she became aser. V'chaz v'hutra, and she became mutter again. Taxel hater harishayin. Therefore, she goes back to her original heter. Says Rashi. Cholz l'shniya hutra l'shuk v'hodinim cholz l'shniya v'achor rishayin. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan no meisa shniya mutter rishayna. If the second one died, then the first one is mutter. Abul meisa rishon, that the first one dies, asu b'shniya. Now, in that, again, we're talking about they didn't die at the same time. So my timer, shekol yavama she'ena nikara ba b'shas nafil yavama yavo leha. Anytime we don't fall into the category of yavama yavo leha, harizu ke'eshes ach sheish abanim v'asura. It's considered like she has children, and therefore, obviously, in that situation, you have children, you can't do yibam with her. So it's the same thing over here. He says that in a situation where Mesa Rishayna, that the first one died, so Asr B'Shniya, because there was already a connection to her. So therefore, the second one now is Asr. Rav Leisli Haisvara of Rab Kol Ish. Any woman that we don't fall into this category, it's very explicit. It's exactly what he says. That's only if there's an Issa Deraisa of your wife's sister. Here it's Achos Zukukaso, and therefore, because it's Din Derabanan, because the woman died, so therefore it's only achos ukukasai, and it was not someone you were married to. Says Rashi, Kagan Gimel Achim, if you had three brothers, Beis Mehem Nesuin LeBeis Achoyos, two married to two sisters, Umeis Ech Mehem, and one of the brothers dies, V'achach Mesa Ishto Shel Beis, and then let's say the second wife dies, the Allah the itmar hach the rav pirkin asur yevimto olav hoyel b'shas nafil achos ishto havoy. Even though now her sister is dead, it doesn't matter, because at the time that the first woman became nafal yibum, that she fell to yibum, so the din was that she had a sister, and therefore she's usher. Even though subsequently later on, before you did anything, the sister dies, still you can't do yibum with her because it's a din deraisa. However, over here it's a din derabanan. Kivan de mesa sharia, and therefore once she dies, then the other sister is mutter. Fine, that's what's being said. Hani milahecha de koi ba'apa isra chaseish deraisa abahacha sikar rabanan he. Eis Rav Yosef Rav Chanina Rav Yochanan. Ask a question. Arba achin. You have four brothers. Beis Mehem Nesun Beis Achoyos. Two married to two sisters. So as we've been saying, Shimon and Levi are married to Rachel and Leah. Umesu Hadesuin Es Hachoyos. So these two brothers, Shimon and Levi, die. So He'el Chotz Asol Musyamos. So we said Reuben and Yehuda have to do chalitza. Yamai Leiku Chad Minayu Lichloitz La Lishnia. Why don't they just do chalitza to the second one? But the Habi Rishayno Gabi Idach Kiyavama Shehutra Vanessa V'chaz V'hutra. Why don't we just say the same din? regarding the first woman. So when it comes to achais, I don't know who learned this. In other words, Rashi says Kamer zu ena Mishnah. It just seems like it's not accurate what's being said. Okay, let's see a couple questions. Question 12. Ma'i chalitza psula. This is like a general question. Chalitza psula is a case she'en yachal yabim. If you can't do yibum, so that's not considered to be a strong chalitza. Question TA 10. Amar Rabbi Huda Marav. Beza chayos Yevamos. Shenaflu lifnei yabam echad. Meisri shayna. Let's say the first woman dies before anything happened. Mutter b'shniya. So then we allow this guy to take the second one. So Madul Amrinan Kivan Shinesra Asura Lamas. Why don't we say that once she's Asur, then she's Asur forever? So he says, Bezika Durabanan Lo Amrina Nesrul Lorav. We don't say this, right? We don't say that when we're dealing with a Din Durabanan. It's Hacha Zika Durabanan he. And since it's Zika Durabanan, we're not going to be strict like this. That's TA 10. So when it comes to a Zika D'Rabbanan, Chazayim Bebeis, that's the reason why you're Mutter B'Shniya. Okay? But if it would be a case, it would be a situation where the woman died, and said Rashi, where you had 3 brothers and 2 of them were married to 2 sisters, and one died, and then afterwards she died. So in that situation, Isha shall beis it marhach derav asur yevimto lavoyel ushas nafil achos ishto havoy. She was still your wife's sister. Okay. So again, there's a chil between dini derais and the rabbanon. Question 12. My chalitz psul the chamira lachad man dermede in a poiter so achin. So as we said before, it's a situation where yibum cannot be done. Rav Shimon d'shtei achayos l'cholsos l'mesiavos midaraisa madinim kishahaisa achs mehem asura be'isur mitzvah umadua. I don't think we did. Adkan.